All right, it is Tuesday afternoon. We are here to mock. When I'm mocking, there's no person I would rather mock than Mike Giardi, the Boston Sports Journal. My man.
Up,
I
dog.
go on for about a minute and a half before you speak. So I'm just going to let you get your jabs in now and we can move forward.
I don't know if you know this, but the intro video that you have for your podcast has Gerard Mayo prominently featured. They might want to just, I'm saying.
So that is for the YouTube audience. And I will say that I don't know why it's still preset in there, but the producers who update that for sure and have it as Mike Vrabel, and I think Drake May's in there, do change it. So thankfully we're there. But no, I appreciate the reminder. Maybe we'll
I'm just here to help. I'm here to help because I know sometimes you need it.
As always, yes. Okay, very good. So the mocking has begun. We have not done any picks, but today's an exciting day because for so long, I have been saying I need to watch more prospects. I need to look at these guys. I could regurgitate what Daniel Jeremiah and Dane Brugler and other smart guys who spend a lot more time in the draft than I do. And there's some value in that, but I want to tell you what I really think. Today, we're going to do that. And we are going to swap picks as Mike and I have projected what we believe the Patriots will do with all the picks they have, multiples in the seventh and the fifth, first, second, and third, maybe a trade or two coming up. And in doing so, not only give you a mock draft, because who doesn't want a mock draft, but discuss some of the guys we see as the best fit. This is not what Mike would do. This is not what I would do. This is what we believe the Patriots will do Tuesday, April 8th, just over 2 weeks left till the draft until we get there. But first, Mike and I are going to be somewhere else on Thursday. This is going to be an awesome event. I teased it a little bit with Doug last week. This is our pre-draft DRAUGHT, a little British spelling there for you, at Vitamin C Brewing in Weymouth. If you want all of your draft questions answered, come on down. If you like delicious beer, come on down. If you want to make fun of Mike or myself to our faces, come on down. Also, bid on silent auction items like a Mike Vrabel signed football, Red Sox tickets. You have a jersey from David Pasternak. You have possibly a Kendrick Bourne signed football and a personal Zoom with Field Yates for 30 minutes, where most people want to talk fantasy football. You can talk whatever you want with Field Yates. It's about $25 a ticket. All the money goes to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, for which I'm raising a lot of money, which brings me to my second point. If you don't want to drive to Weymouth, Thursday, April 17th at 7:30 p.m., more details are on my Twitter, Blue Sky, etc. You can just come on the show. We can do 5-10 minutes, whatever you want. That will require at least a $10 donation, which you can find pinned to my Twitter, or just email me to LLS, again, the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. All this done in the name and honor of Hallie Kide. But we have our first mail fan today, Gary Langlais, who I don't know what I'm going to talk about with Gary because he's coming on after Mike. But it's going to be a good time, and the mail fan is back. Anything you want to add about next Thursday night in Vitamin C?
No, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun to, mix it up on the draft and where the Patriots stand. But I don't, as you mentioned, I don't want to lose sight of what it's really all about. So we're going to have fun, but let's have fun and put our dollars behind it and support a great cause. I think that Haley's memory needs to live on. I'm sure it does in the Kite household. I just remarkable family and what they've done, and I want to put all our weight behind it because it's a worthy cause for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because, sometimes rattling off the details and the who and the what and the when and the where and even the how, I don't get to the why. And it feels like it doesn't need to be said, but I think it's a great reminder because I've been raising a lot of money, trying to help Doug raise money. Look, she was taken too early. And the money here goes towards helping families fight the battle that the Kides fought last year. Like, this is real impact, especially as cancer research is being cut by the government at this current time. This money goes directly to the best cause possible. And I'll give you one more thing. If you don't want to drive to Weymouth and hang out with us, which include Ted Johnson, I think it's going to come down. We got a couple feelers out for current Patriots players, by the way. It's a 2-hour event. You get to drink beer, hang out, talk draft, bid on items. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to come on the show, but you like golf, we're running a Masters pool. And I will say this again and reiterate towards the end of the podcast. Email me, Callahan@bostonherald.com. DM me _Andrew Callahan on X, or hit me up on Blue Sky. The point of the Masters pool, something I do with friends and family anyway, $20. It's a 50-50. So 10 will go straight to LLS. 10 will go to a pot where the top 5 people, everyone won more than $100 last year when I did this. This year we're expanding. So if you like golf, if you want to watch the Masters, enjoy, maybe make a little bit of money, give money towards LLS, hit me up. Masters pool, $20, Callahan@bostonherald.com. Deadline is 8 a.m. when the first tee time is Thursday morning. Okay. That's a lot of housekeeping. Let's get to the football. Round 7, the Patriots' current last pick. Again, we're going to go through all of the picks. Trades are allowable. This is what Mike Giardi thinks. This is what I think the Patriots are going to do with all the draft picks, April 24th to the 26th. But their last pick is at schedule right now. Number 238 overall. This is from the LA Chargers in the wash our hands of J.C. Jackson nonsense trade of a couple of years ago. What are the Patriots doing with pick number 238 overall in the 7th round?
I have them going to the University of Alabama and selecting Tim Smith, a defensive tackle. Nothing spectacular about Tim Smith. Run stuffer, big body, place him in the middle. I think I look at the Patriots defensive line, particularly the interior, and I want to add some bodies in this draft. I think he's pretty good against the run. So I don't want to completely undersell him, but he's a 7th round pick. It's a dart throw, but I kind of like the idea of building a little competition there. And who knows, he makes the roster or he ends up on the practice squad, but he's someone who can develop. He's played a lot of football at Alabama, and he's played it pretty well.
I like the pick. Here's mine. Kicker. Okay. That's just what it is. I think they get their kicker there with the last pick. You're shaking your head because I get the reluctance to spend draft capital on kickers. But if there's a guy that they don't have to fight for as an undrafted free agent, and we'll give you $50,000 in a signing bonus, we'll give you $100,000. Just save me all of that fuss and get to guys that could make an impact. Draft it could be Ryan Fitzgerald from Florida State. There's a kid from Miami whose name I'm going to mispronounce. I'm just going to skip it. The point is the Patriots get their kicker because we know they're going to take one, even if you're going to shake your head in the process.
Yeah, I don't like talking about kickers at all. Is Justin Warwasser available by chance?
No. So the Patriots have learned their lesson. I can tell you they're scouting the tattoos of any incoming kickers. I'm going to go next. Staying in the 7th round, the Patriots have 3 7th round picks. Next one I have at number 220 overall. Minnesota quarterback Max Brosmer. This kid had 18 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. He's a transfer from UNH, in case the name sounds familiar to anyone listening in the 6th grade states of New England, which does include Connecticut, as much as folks want to object. And some people from Connecticut want to object. Anyway, Max Brosmer, who probably has no takes in New England, he's your traditional pocket passer. He processes well, doesn't have a cannon for an arm. He is particularly accurate, fits the pass prototype of guys that you kind of throw a dart at and say, you'll hang it in a practice squad. Maybe he's a number 2. But he was practice player of the week at the East-West Shrine game. Impressed folks down there. 6'2", about 220 pounds. So he's solid enough. And I think this is just a position where, at least I feel like they're going to draft the kid. And if it's going to be someone, Josh McDaniels will want smart and accurate with a higher floor. I feel like Brosmer, who might even go higher than this, gives them that at the 220th pick.
I'll give you a little tidbit, a little draft tidbit. It's Brosmer.
Oh,
yes. How awesome is that? Max Brosmer. I like it. I think I too would have them addressing sort of a third arm here. But I'm going to do LaQuint Allen. I got that right. Jeez. LaQuint really screwed me up. LaQuint Allen.
I've already screwed up the name. So if you don't know that that's a
I just corrected you on Brosmer too. Running back out of Syracuse. Like them at Senior Bowl. It's pretty good tape of him this past year. What I really like about him, he's a receiving back, and they need one. Not that, look, maybe Antonio Gibson was underutilized in that aspect, but I like the idea of a little bit smaller, a little bit quicker, 6 feet, 205. He's got the stuff on tape that you say they can work with that, so I like him at this spot.
Okay. What made him, aside from it's a 7th round pick, right? They could take 2 running backs for all that we know. They only have 3 on the roster. But what appealed about him over some other backs that obviously they're looking at right now and considering?
I just thought he sort of, for me, it was seeing him in person at the Senior Bowl. And again, it's practice and whatever, but natural catcher of the football. He actually showed some route versatility, which I liked. I think he ran it well. It wasn't one of these guys who's like, you keep ducking into flat. Like there was some actual nuance to what he was doing. And he just sort of, to me, he just stood out. Like there was a pretty good group there. And I came away from it like with Harvey and some of these other guys. And I was like, I like him. Like just file that away. Make sure you watch tape on him later on. Like he's someone that could fit something that Josh McDaniels likes to do with this offense. So there you go.
Question for you.
Yes.
If I made a petition to retire the phrase thrower of the football, catcher of the football, yes, as you just enunciated, would you sign my petition?
The problem is we use so many words so often that just naturally has become a thing, right? It's like shooter of the basketball. Like we have all these things now. We can't we don't say he just throws it. We have to throw a couple more words in it because you're trying to get 45 minutes on your podcast.
We don't have to say it though, and I don't say this to jump down your throat.
No, you're kind of jumping down my throat. I'm a little disgusted with you.
I waded in with the petition bit. Yeah, I think you gave me like a pencil signature. The point is, when we do this, we're saying nothing. It is to sound better without actually giving you better information. No one says I'm a great driver of the car or they're a crappy speaker of the language. You go, you're an English speaker or you're a driver. Like that's it. When we do this though, because this is one of the oldest pass interference bits on the show, which is of course pass interference, as I just give you prime example A of saying things that are too long, is when people want to be serious or add extra emphasis to their football points. You don't say, oh, in the NFL, you go, one of the best players in the National Football League. So as a podcast hoster of the podcast, I don't know. I think we need to retire it. We need to get more efficient with our
that doesn't necessarily jive because it's a podcast hoster of a podcast. No, that's not what we're saying. He throws. What does he throw? He throws the football.
What else would he throw though?
You don't know.
Does he just like pick up a baseball?
Joe Milton threw oranges and people went bananas over it. See what I did there? Oranges, bananas. Like, you don't know. Could throw you out the club.
I want to retire it. But there are bigger things to press on. Speaking of which, I told you the Patriots had 3 7th-round picks. I don't have 3 picks for you in the 7th round because, spoiler alert, I've traded them. Oh. I've also traded a 5th-round pick, as the Patriots now have 2 5th-round picks, thanks to Joe Milton, but not in this scenario. Not in my mock draft. That is my mock draft. And we will go ahead and forge on with pick number 144 overall. This is someone that you also saw at the Senior Bowl. So I'm actually very curious about what you saw. From Barron Sorrell from Texas. He's an edge, 6'3", 256 pounds, ran a 4.68 at the combine. Only 6 sacks last year and 44 tackles. But when I first read about him, it was this high floor guy. He's hard-nosed. I'm like, okay, it's kind of like stuff you say when you don't have anything else to say. Again, another old podcast bit of, oh, what do you think of your, I always use sister's new boyfriend. Like they've been together for a while. This does not apply to the real life boyfriend of my life. Like, oh, he pays his bills. He's nice. He brushes his teeth, like decent hygiene, like shit you say when you have nothing else to say. But he lived up to this. Like I look at this as a guy who's got some serious knockback potential. He's got heavy hands. I like the way that he is relentless throughout the play. And not only that, but received the best defensive lineman on the American squad when at the end of the Senior Bowl, they round up players from the other team, this time the national squad, and say, okay, who was the best defensive lineman? It was our guy who comes to the Patriots in the 5th round and seems to fit a Vrabel prototype, at least from the little I've seen and read.
The thing that stood out to me was what you just said, the heavy hands. Like he's one of those guys, like I was down closer to the field, not on the field, but down closer to the field, and they were doing some drills. And some guys just sound different when they're doing the drills. I always remember, and I tell the story, Sebastian Vollmer, the first time we were in, it was like one of the first practices. They had to go indoors to that horrible bubble in Foxboro. And literally the offensive line with Dante's right in front of us. And he's throwing hands into a pad. Vollmer is. And I'm like, because remember, no one had him as a 2nd-round pick. Like he was, day 3. He might even be an undrafted. Like it was all kinds of stuff. Massive human being. And then all of a sudden you heard him throw that punch. And you're like, they got some really good players on the offensive line here, and nobody's power sounded like that. And I was like, they may, they may be smarter again than we think that they are, or they may have gotten this one. And sure enough, they did. And that was sort of the same thing where like there was certain a sharpness to the power that made you go, okay, I'll watch him a little bit more because I'm not too familiar with this game. And he did. He had a very good week. And there was a wide collection of talented football players. I mean, that's a deep pool in terms of just defensive line in this draft period. So the fact that he was able to make that sort of impression, I think says a lot about the work not only they put in on the field, but I think some of that too is what happens off the field. And I think he impressed guys off the field as well. So he definitely has the profile that would fit sort of Mike Vrabel's past history with players at Tennessee.
Yeah, we talked to Harold Landry today. And I look at him and go, okay, he's a former 2nd-round pick in Tennessee, and he's had a long career, productive, yada, yada. 6'2", 252 is typically a little bit lighter than most edge players you'll find across the league. Sorrell's 6'3", 256. Like, this still fits within maybe not the exact prototype, but has played guys of his similar stature. and play demeanor, which is the big thing we hear over and over and over again from Vrabel. Like he fits, and if you go, oh, he's a 5th round pick and he's edge, like it's a deep edge class. I don't know what else to say. And so for him, most years, maybe he's a 4th round pick. And I think if they do land him, would be certainly top my list of guys who could surprise in the summer.
Yeah, no, I'm on board with that pick. I like it.
All right, who do you got in the 5th round? How many picks in the 5th round?
So I did not, I went, let's see, I had 4, 38, 69, 77, 106, no trades. I did no trades. So 171 would be where I'm at, right? I'm going Jackson Hawes, the tight end out of Georgia Tech, another guy who was at the Senior Bowl. And Jackson Hawes is probably not going to catch more than 20 passes in a single season in his career. And that's not to say that he's not athletic enough to be that, but what he profiles as is a blocking tight end. And he moves people. And I think what we're seeing, and I shout out my podcast partner in the All 32, Will Parkinson, because he's sort of brought this Jackson Hawes to the forefront for me. And then just we've had these conversations, and it feels like, Andrew, we're starting to go back to running backs and the running game matter more than it has in the last 10 years or so. And Jackson Hawes is a people mover who you have no problem will run behind him. Oh, that's a powerful edge. Hawes will handle him. Hawes will cover him up. Like, you're going to double, you're going to wham block. Hawes will do that. Like, he just sort of has that in his game. So when you look at Hunter Henry, who is adequate as a blocker, and you look at Austin Hooper, adequate, bring this guy, short yardage situations, or, hey, you know what? This game, we're going to run the ball down your throat until you stop it, and Hawes is going to be a part of it. So let's go. That's why I like him as a fit here.
So I don't have a tight end on my entire mock, which again, to further spoil stuff that's coming down the pipeline. And I initially was like, okay, I got to rearrange this. And I just thought they are obviously very comfortable and happy with Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper, who are all around players. Okay. Not elite in any particular skill, but just reliable in that kind of sense. I still think that's a position they want to invest in, because we even look at those Titans teams. They would carry 4, sometimes 5 tight ends on the roster. We heard Mike at the owners' meetings, like, oh, let me build the whole freaking plan out of tight ends.
Right.
Was this a bigger mistake than I reflected on? Like, do you think they're really going to take a tight end? Because I would think so, but I just couldn't find the right spot in the way that this all laid out for me.
So I think this is one of those things where when I start to do it and structure it the way I did, I'm like, there are certain positions that are too good in this draft to not get a piece of. We talk about running back being a very deep class. I got one of those. We talk about defensive line. I am taking multiple defensive linemen because I think that's the premier. But then I think tight end is pretty good. And I don't know that it's been pretty good the last few years. There's been a couple guys, Laporta, whatever, some guys that have jumped. But like, to me, I feel like I got to get a guy out of this group. And I contemplated Thomas Fedone, my guy from Nebraska, who was a former 5-star, who I really like. But this guy, he's more of Austin Hooper type. This guy fits a certain role for this team that I think could actually be an important enough of an import for this team to have. So I felt like I had to do it with this group.
Yeah. All right. You still have another 5th round pick, because I traded mine.
At 144, Patriots on the clock, correct? So full disclosure, when I first started doing this, I wrote down 3 wide receiver names. 2. Dante Thornton from Tennessee, Pat Bryant, the wide receiver from Illinois. I also wrote down Jaden Blue, the running back from Texas. But as I said, I've sort of worked this out in a certain way. I decided here's where I'm going to grab my center. And it's Seth McLaughlin, who formerly of Alabama, then transferred to Ohio State, having a good year for Ohio State, blew out his Achilles in November. So the medicals would be important here. But I think he's still more of a developmental prospect. I don't think he's taking Garrett Bradbury's job necessarily, but I like the profile of the player. He's played in a lot of big games, and he's played pretty well in a lot of these big games. So give me that guy. Vrabel, obviously, with the connection to Ohio State, like, he's going to have the full scoop on McLaughlin's medicals from the past year. So I thought about going center in the 3rd round. In fact, I initially wrote down a name, and then I scratched it out. I was like, nope, I'm going to wait. I'm going to take McLaughlin in the 5th, and that's how I'm going to roll.
Yeah, center was another tough position for me, because I look at it and go, depending on their belief in Marrone, who's been around forever, we know the different teaching style, et cetera, but the Patriots always waited on centers, interior linemen, because there was such belief in Scar, who rewarded that, let's be clear. with being able to develop your Shaq Masons, David Andrews, obviously undrafted, and mold them into starters, not only just long-term, but right away. If they have that kind of belief in Doug Marrone, or he stands on the table, right, for a guy in the 6th or 7th round, says, I can make this work. Whether he's right or not, I think he's earned that belief in the room that will have some more sway, maybe not to the level of a Dante Scarnecchia, but something close. And to me, that will dictate where they go because, as I've said, I have trades up here, which cost extra picks, don't have the 5th rounder. I mistakenly said they had 3 7th rounders. Obviously, they dealt one in the Joe Milton deal. But there's going to be a significant opportunity cost. It's just a matter of whether they see that or not, because they can fill it in later to the depth of the class or the belief of certain coaches who need to be right. Or they can go all in on players they know can be impact from day one. So the center is another position like tight end that I think they can just wait here and convince themselves, whether they're right or wrong. Yeah, Jake Andrews and Cole Strange will kind of patch together. We'll figure it out behind Garrett Bradbury, which is it just does not sound great. I'm not in love with that idea, but I do like the way my draft has unfolded, even though I didn't take a center. It's just one of those things. They're going to have to deliberate and find some kind of value. A guy who outperforms our expectations going into the draft, whether it's an undrafted free agent or a 6th and 7th rounder that pushes for a starting job right away, whether it's their tight end or somewhere else.
Quick aside. I don't know how anybody can say they know anything about Jake Andrews, a football player.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, we've seen very little of it. So it's like, to me, when, I get it, I'm sure you do, your comments or mentions like, oh, well, yeah, what about Jake Andrews? I'm like, what about him, man? I can't, he played like 2 minutes in a game in his rookie year. Like, I have no idea if Jake Andrews fits what they want to do and if Jake Andrews is even a good football player. Don't know. Have no idea.
Yeah, a guy who, per the media consensus board, was a reach 2 years ago. Out of Troy, short arms, tough, had the stamp of approval from Cole Popovich, now the offensive line coach with the Texans, obviously before that with the Patriots, who had some sort of intel. I had a good long chat with Jake at the tail end of last season. He came in one of the 3 times we probably saw him in the locker room. Right. And, I tweeted out what I knew then, and I think he's fully healthy. He's ready to go this spring. So you hope for the best for him.
Yep.
But even when you go, oh, he was a 4th round pick, he had some talent. Like, that was not the consensus opinion. Doesn't mean it's right. But that was one where clearly someone within the Patriots, maybe even Bill, stood on the table and said, this can work. Whether or not he's right, we still have to find out. All right. One of my favorite players in this entire draft. Okay. This is a guy who I had to stop watching because I just watched too much film, but it was too much fun just to pass up. It's coming up next. This is the Patriots' 4th round pick, number 106. After this. Enough about free agency. Enough about the draft. No more mocks, no more rumors, no more whispers, no more mailbag. It is time to talk, not about football or anything like that. Prize Picks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app, because when I'm not on this podcast and I'm sitting at home and I'm watching the Celtics, or it could be a hockey game, or it could be a baseball game. Sox are just around the corner. I am playing Prize Picks and I am winning. And I would like you, as someone who supports this podcast, to win a little bit too. Because right now at Prize Picks, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash and run your game all season long. When you build your lineup, you know the deal. 2 to 6 players, all right? Every single time you go to Prize Picks, online or on the app, you'll see a player, and they'll have a stat. And all you have to do with your lineup is pick the player, go more or less on that stat. It could be Jason Tatum, 5 threes. If you think he'll hit more than 5 threes, he's going to hit more. If you think Kristaps Porzingis will have less than 18 points, hit less. Boom. That's a lineup right there. So 2 to 6 player stat projections over at Prize Picks. Basketball, hockey, baseball around the corner. Of course, football will be back too. And when you sign up today, if you're a new customer, here's the best part. You get $50. 50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. You don't even need to win to get the $50 bonus 50. You just have to play. So sign up today. Download the app and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app today and you will get $50 instantly with the promo code CLNS after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm not going to waste any time. Bashal Tutin, running back out of Virginia Tech. Fastest running back at the combine. Okay, so a lot of guys who get that title, you're like, yeah, forget about it. 4.32. Here's another number for you that starts with a 4. Yards after contact, according to PFF, 4.4. Total yards, over 1,000, 2 of the last 3 years. Does have 8 fumbles. Don't love that over the last 2 seasons. Issues in pass protection. But this dude is physical. He is compact at 5'9", 206. He's all muscled up. He can catch the football. Last year's numbers weren't great. The year before that, much better for Virginia Tech. This is an explosive play waiting to happen. And I look at the issues in pass protection and with ball security. Big deals. Don't get me wrong. That's why he's going to the 4th round, not in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. As issues that they go, We don't need him now. You sit behind Ramondre. You sit behind Antonio Gibson. Vrabel has a lot of confidence in Tony Du as their new running backs coach.
Yep.
Josh McDaniels will make clear whether or not he believes or where he draws the line of ball security, okay? Because you can win with a player like this who can kind of create out of nothing. If you're a team like the Patriots, it's not going to create a whole lot of running lanes this year, maybe not even next season. You need guys who can create on their own. Bashal Tootin, man, sign me up.
So I love everything about the player except for the fumbles. And I got to tell you, that's like massive red flag because it's going to get harder, not easier at the next level. And these guys are like, they've made this into an art form, the punching out of the football. Hell, half the time guys don't even try to tackle anymore. They're just punching at the football and you see the ball go flying. Like Ramondre Stevenson's this big physical dude getting the ball knocked out of his hands left and right last year. Like it just, Antonio Gibson's a big dude. He's had fumbling problems in his career. He's a do not draft guy for me. And
he's off the board.
Yeah, he's off the board. Off the board. I don't need to introduce that into my. There are enough running backs in this group that I can find someone who's as good or almost as good who doesn't put the ball on the ground as recklessly as this young man does. So I understand what your thinking is. There's a lot of good analysis, a good process behind that, and yet. If you were the running backs coach and I was Mike Vrabel and you told that to me, I said, get the hell out of here. Go find me someone else that holds on to the ball.
Can I interest you in Bashal Tootin, the kick returner? Because that's another position like running back that we talk about the values increasing. This is more due to rule changes, but 4.3 speed in a way that, again, you just say, look, you have two jobs this year. You hold on to the football closer than anything you've ever held in your life and certainly closer than you have the last two seasons. You learn how to return kicks and develop that vision. And whenever we part with Antonio Gibson or Ramondre Stevenson after this year, you're up next. Keep that in mind every single day. Carry one football around the facility, and if it gets punched out, which we know the head coach would absolutely be all over that, you end up having to pay some kind of penalty that he doesn't want to. Is that bring you around a little bit more?
Still not. You're not. He's going to drop it on the kick return too.
Oh, stop!
I'm just telling you.
Fun tape though.
It is it's really fun. But yeah. I'm telling you, there's 10 guys in this class at running back that have that kind of like I was mentioning Jaden Blue. He's not a full-time running back. Like he's a committee guy. Maybe he's a 10-touch guy, but like, holy crap, is he explosive? Like there's a lot of that in this draft.
Yeah. And Tootin did it despite carrying the load at Virginia Tech, which is interesting too, because their head coach, Brent Pry, was the defensive coordinator, at Penn State when I was there. Like this is a defensive head coach who would normally not suffer a fools or certainly not fumbles. And yet they kept giving him the rock. You're Virginia Tech. You don't have a lot of guys who run 4.3, wow. But because of that dynamic ability where I can make up for that turnover because I'll get you a touchdown. It's too much for me to pass up at 106, but you have somebody different.
Well, I was just going to say Virginia Tech's offense in general I would launch it into the sun. The playbook, just shoot it into the sun, and let's start over. I'm going defensive line again. I'm going CJ West, the defensive tackle out of Indiana. He had a great season for Indiana. It's arguably their best defensive player on a historical season for Indiana this year. Terrific at the Shrine and during the Shrine week. People loved him. I've heard nothing but great things about his work ethic, and I just think he's a really stout interior defensive lineman. And again, I am loading up on defensive line, and I'm concentrating somewhat on the interior because as much as it's great seeing Christian Barmore at OTAs, I got to have better insurance. They didn't have good insurance last year. Not that they could have known what was going to happen to him, but now that the blood clots reoccurred, so he's had it twice. Like, I'm glad that they're cautiously optimistic and it's progressing. He's progressing in the right direction to maybe be on the field in July and August. I still want to make sure that I have more than enough behind him this year. I don't want to go through that last year. And they signed what's his name from Arizona. He's their third defensive tackle right now. And like, I don't know. Like, yeah, thank you. Like, just give me more. I need more. I think this kid's got a decent ceiling to him, and I think he already comes in with a pretty good floor.
I might give you more if you just wait. But first, co-signing CJ West. That's a guy I looked at long and hard at 106. I don't know if he'll even be there, but that is very much a plug-in rotational type of guy, especially with a team that's going to give you opportunity. Like Elliot Wolf thought Jalen Polk was plug and play. They had opportunity and it just didn't work out. But this is a guy that, at least at this part of the draft, you feel comfortable with, contributed on a good team, drove winning on that side of the ball, and made an impact. Hits all the physical benchmarks. Sign me up. All right, we are going to day 2 now, and neither of us has drafted an offensive tackle. Neither of us have really changed the receiver room, as it were. What are you doing with your first of 2 third-round picks here? This one from Atlanta should be number 77.
So I really wanted to draft Andrew Makuba, the safety from Texas, who I absolutely, I mean, you want to talk about draft crushes. He might be top 5 draft crush of all time.
Like your wife is worried about him? Kind of draft crush?
He is a crazy man at 186 pounds. He plays like he's 220. You know, for the Eamon Worry, the kid from South Carolina who tested off the charts, and he's this big physical freak. Eamon Worry only wishes that he played as physical as Makuba did. But I didn't do it because safety's not at the top of my need. But what is one of my concerns coming into this process, and I think it's going to be addressed, is nickel corner. I'm going Jacob Parrish, cornerback out of Kansas State. I think he can play inside. I know he can play inside. There's a good level of physicality to him. He is bigger than your current nickel corner or their nickel corner from last year in Marcus Jones, who I know we heard from on Tuesday. I like this player. I like this fit. And I think all of a sudden I got Gonzo, Carlton Davis. I got this kid on the inside. I'm feeling pretty good about my second year. I think it's going to be pretty hard for you to throw on my corners this year. And I like that.
He's such a Vrabel fit too. Like I haven't watched a ton of him. The little that I have was like, okay, yep, confirmed everything that was said. And it's not because they didn't want to spend more time in him. It's just there's a lot of good nickel players in this draft. And when you hear Vrabel speak, I think it was maybe his second or third answer at the combine. It spoke to about the evolution of the game, and someone asked him about a general coaching question. Nickelback is where his mind went, and the importance of that position and how you generate the defensive version of explosive plays, which are negative plays or in an ideal world turnovers from that spot, because how often you're blitzing, right? You're in run force, obviously some man coverage, and that's usually leading you to the middle of the field. These are all premium jobs defensively packed into one little position that used to be, whenever they played 3 receivers. Last 10 years, that's what most of the league has been doing. So I do think they'll address that position. They've spoken highly about Marcus Jones, who talked to us today. There's nothing really to take away from Marcus Jones, but I think they will add to that room, and I think that kid is a perfect fit. All right. I think we're having a disagreement here on the next receiver. So we can kind of go through here. I meant to say Pickett's a receiver. Stanford's Alec Iomenor. This is 6'2", 206. You're shaking your head already. He's big, physical as hell. This is a bully. This is a guy who, when you hear Mike Vrabel talk about receivers, contested catches always come up, right? The compete level, play demeanor. You look at the receivers Vrabel took early in the draft in Tennessee. A.J. Brown, Traylon Burks, big, physical dudes. He had more than 800 yards last year, 1,000 the season before, 6 touchdowns in each. This is a guy who is going to play up to that size, and they are going to love because of how hard he played even on a bad Stanford team where he's run blocking his ass off. Wide catch radius, big body, physical, strong. This is a Vrabel guy who could play defense and just happens to play receiver.
He has hands like feet. And it's honest to God, like his measurements, there's no reason his hands should suck as bad as they do. I think his hands kind of suck. Like it's double catches.
So this is from the 33rd team, though. Like his drop rate is still bottom 8 in this class for the receivers.
I'm just telling you, he's not a clean catcher of the football. There you go. How do you like that? Clean catcher of the football. Does that qualify?
Yes.
I do. All right. So I was shaking my head because I don't like the receiver. I do in terms of like the pass catching version of the receiver. I love the physicality. Like if you look at his hand size, he shouldn't have this much of a problem with it. So if they feel comfortable with that, I could totally see this because it does fit sort of the personality of what Vrabel wants from that position. I will say they drafted, I think, 6 receivers when Vrabel was there, and A.J. Brown's the only one that was worth a damn thing. Traylon Burks, he's been a disaster, so that's part of the problem. But the other guys they drafted on days 2 and 3, none of them have done anything in the league. So there's just that in terms of, I know like, oh, well, he got AJ. Well, yeah, okay. But then there were 5 other guys they took, they couldn't, including one in the first round. Look, certainly from if you want an X or you want more competition at X, that makes some sense. But I'm drafting a wide receiver at pick 69, who's a better player than the one you just picked at 77. They don't play the same position on the receiver chart, but he's a better player.
Oh, go ahead.
At 69, he is probably my favorite player in the draft. Jaylin Noel, the slot receiver from Iowa State. He is awesome. He has, let's put it this way, he has short arms, which we've talked a lot about short arms to tackles. He has shorter arms. You'd like if he had, his arms were 1.5 inches longer, I'd draft him in the first round and not even think about it. Like back in the first round, I'd be a team like, oh yeah, that's my guy. He's got a little bit shorter arms, but yet he wins 50-50 balls. He wins contested catch stuff. He is an incredible, like he tested off the charts, and you see that on tape. Not necessarily the straight line speed, because even though I think he ran a 4.4, not always play to that same type of speed, straight line, but he is so friggin' quick. Like, good luck covering him in a short area. I actually have done a wide receiver profile for Boston Sports Journal, which I believe comes out on Wednesday. There's some video in there of him. He breaks things off. He's quick. Like, I love the dude. Last year, they, in part, one of the reasons why they didn't draft Ladd McConkey was because of Pop Douglas, right? You're like, well, we've got the slot already, and we feel good about this guy. Don't do that again. Jaylin Noel in the slot. This is the Josh McDaniels type player. I can feed this guy. Like, if you told me he was catching 85, 90 passes a couple years from now, would not surprise me in the least.
Jaylin Noel is the apple of draft Twitter's eye. So I'm not going to rankle the rest of draft Twitter.
I saw him at the Senior Bowl, and I was just like,
you saw him first.
Mikey loved Jaylin. You
saw Jaylin from across the bar and then waited 2 months to come on this podcast and then finally profess your love for him.
Pluck the ball with the hands and get upfield like that.
Plucker of the football. Very good. Yep, okay, so Jaylin Noel, look, I'm not going to dispute this. The amount of love in his direction, though, nothing personal to him, for a guy who's not considered top 2, maybe 3 in a bad receiver class, is now getting to the point where everyone tells you to watch a show that's been so good and you want to watch it less every time it's recommended. It's not that I don't think Jaylin Noel wouldn't improve the Patriots receiving core in the way that most people with a pulse and football experience would. It's just to say that fine, good. Like, it's a fine pick.
I don't like you poo-pooing this at all.
I like him more than Iumanor, but when I look at what I think the Patriots will do in the history and what that indicates and the guys they want, I think my pick is a little bit more likely. But it's a nice pick at number 69, Mike. Very nice 69th pick. Okay, moving on. My next pick is not number 69. It is not even 38, because in this scenario, the Patriots, the trade, they've packaged number 38 and number 69 and that 5th rounder I didn't use about 15 minutes ago at number 171 from Dallas. That equates to 237 points on Rich Hill's modern trade value chart, which tells you exactly how teams see these picks based on how they trade them and how they use them on draft day. You know what else is worth 237 points on the dot, Mike Giardi?
Yes. Pick 24 with the Minnesota Vikings.
Pick 24.
Who desperately need picks. They only had 4 picks coming into the draft.
Only have 4 picks in the draft. Right now you say, hey, we will give you 3 more picks to move back 14 spots. And in the meantime, right ahead of the Houston Texans, who need offensive line help, dangerously close to the way that the Patriots need offensive line help. You jump them for Josh Simmons, left tackle from Ohio State. 6'5", 317 pounds, 33-inch arms, even at the combine, 2 thumbs up, which get to be a half inch longer when you go home and just measure there. He started 13 games at left tackle for San Diego State in 2023. Transfers to Columbus, 6 starts there, gets hurt, on a trajectory that most considered top 10, top 15, top 20 pick. The injury obviously sets him back. It's a serious torn patellar injury. But even though he's not the greatest finisher and you want to see him play with a little bit more power, like, this is a guy who's played right tackle and left tackle in college, has a prototypical physical skill set and all of the benchmarks, height, weight, and length, and he's scheme flexible. This is a guy who's played the position he needed to fill. Vrabel had the intel at Ohio State when they talk about, is Will Campbell, Armand Membo, and guys that aren't really considered top 5 picks overall in this draft. Okay, fine. Take somebody else. And then go back and get the guy that you can plug and play at left tackle who will be able to physically hold up in the NFL, and you let him develop and ideally become a starter for the next 10 years.
So in my mock draft 2.0, which ran on Monday in Boston Sports Journal, another shameless plug, I traded the same 3 picks you did with Minnesota and traded up for the guy that I'm picking at 38, which is Josh Connerly. Now, again, we did this off the consensus board. And look, I've seen him in the mid-20s and I've seen him in the early 30s. If I had any fear here, if I had any concern that he's coming off the board, and when you start looking from 25 to 33, there are 4 teams that could go tackle. So it could happen quick. Last year it happened quick, and they ended up with Caden Wallace, who we don't know what Caden Wallace is because he was hurt a lot last year as well. They can't get caught in that same position. So if it takes the 3 picks, I'm willing to sacrifice Jackson Hawes. I'm willing to sacrifice, dare I say it, Jaylin Noel.
Yes, good man.
And move up to get Josh Connerly out of the University of Oregon, who I've said this a bunch, and it happened at the Senior Bowl where he got absolutely murdered by Mike Green. Mike Green, he was expecting something else, and one-on-ones, Mike Green went right through his chest, knocked him on his back. All the players are there, so they're going crazy, and it's like, oh, boy, that's a moment for Mike Green. And that's also a moment that people are going to go, remember that time when he just got completely overwhelmed? Mike Green and Josh Connerly proceeded to match up 2 more times right after that. And both times Josh Connerly won the rep. And to me, that said a ton. Like, I'm not putting my tail between my legs. I'm not embarrassed. Like, look, I made a mistake. He's a good football player. He's probably going in the top 15. He got me. And then I turned around and I bounced back and I did it really well. I've talked to a lot of people about him because I've sort of zeroed in on the idea that maybe he's a little bit lighter than you would like, but
yes,
his measurables are very reminiscent of one Taylor Lewan, who was not drafted by Mike Vrabel in Tennessee, but then was given an extension by Mike Vrabel in that team. And if you listen to Mike Vrabel talk about Taylor Lewan, it's one of his favorite players, like, period, end of story. There's a lot of love and respect there. He was a gamer. Now, I don't, what's Connerly's personality? I don't have the answer to that. They'll have a better answer from talking to him, but he's a competitive dude who I think is getting better. And I think there's a pretty high ceiling on this kid. And I like the idea of getting him. So whether it's 38 or, like you did, moving up to 24, you took Simmons. I would just say the thing about Simmons is he definitely probably was, I would say he was most likely headed to top 6 or 7 pick in the draft and be the left tackle. Like, he's the best left tackle in this class. The patellar tendon, if you start looking deeper into recovery and guys it's a hard one to come back from. And there are not too many left tackles that have ever gone through this. So we talk about Will Campbell and the projection with the arm length. This is a tough projection medically for a guy who has experienced something that not too many high-level left tackles have ever gone through.
Game Time is just a terrific app. If you're looking for tickets, the Game Time app is a great way to get Celtics tickets. Also, not just Celtic tickets, but also for concerts and shows as well. Plus, they have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. It'll filter out all the fluff, and it'll give you incredible deals on great seats right away. You don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets and thousands of websites. And then don't forget, they have the super deal with the Game Time app. The super deal is the best deal on the board at that particular time, so you can always make sure you're on the lookout for that. So download the Game Time app today, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the Game Time app, create an account, use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Why, it's game time.
It's a great point, and you don't even have to go to left tackle to understand how difficult that is to play on what is basically a rebuilt patellar tendon because Cole Strain said I had to learn how to walk again, right?
Yeah.
And that's a guy who needed more than 12 months to recover from the same injury, different position, different people, different demands, sometimes playing out in space versus double teaming in the inside left guard versus left tackle. I don't think Connerly gets out of the first round. Like, I think that's a guy whose stock has risen, and it's not just because we get bored on the outside and go, oh, what do you think of this guy? He played in the playoff. He played against Abdul Carter, had an outstanding game in the Big Ten championship game. That matters a lot, not just in terms of extended tape against good teams, possibly the number 1 or number 2 overall pick. All right, so you laid out part of this case without knowing it, but the number 4 pick, which a couple of weeks ago, and I stand by it, I think Will Campbell is the odds-on favorite for the Patriots number 4. I'm preparing myself, but because that wasn't that long ago, I have a new pick for the folks who read me and also listen to the podcast. Mason Graham, Michigan defensive tackle. And I don't love this pick. This is not an exercise what Andrew Callahan would do as a GM. But he's 6'3", between 295 and 310. Relentless, violent, productive, destroys blocks, has outstanding instincts, and creates interior pressure. The NFL comp at NFL.com is Christian Wilkins. I think that checks out beautifully. He was the top-graded defensive tackle in all of college football last year at PFF, first-team All-American, and perfect in a rotation, and this is the case he laid out, with Milton Williams and Christian Barmore. Because right now, the third defensive tackle is Kyrie's Tonga, who was supposed to be a run stuffer when he came out of BYU and was in the 7th round of every mock that I put together that year in 2019 or 2020, whenever he came out. The point is, even if Mason Graham only plays 40 to 50% of the snaps, that's still incredibly valuable. Just ask $100 million man, Milton Williams. You have a rotation there from a player who, in this scenario, the Patriots cannot trade back. And I will be very clear here, as I was recently somewhere else. The Patriots would like to trade back. There are people in the front office that really want that to happen. In this case, it doesn't. And in this case, you settle for a top 5 overall prospect, according to Dane Brugler, Daniel Jeremiah, Todd McShay, Mel Kiper, and yours truly. If you're going to pick the best player, take the defensive tackle spot, make it a strength, get that pressure. A Mike Vrabel guy, Mason Graham, right now, April 8th is the pick at number 4.
I would have no beef if that's what they did. Honestly, like, he's a really good player. Look, we want them to do more on offense. There's no question, but it's just much like free agency. I don't think that's the way it's going to shake out. So what are you going to do? And if you're in this scenario, you can't trade back. That's a pretty damn good player to take. And it's why I did what I did at 4. And that's Jaylin Walker from Georgia, who I think there's a tier of players who are blue chippers. Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, I think Ashton Jeanty qualifies, but again, luxury pick. I don't think you can do that. In fact, I would never do that. Mason Graham, to me, is on a tier below that, and I think Jaylin Walker is in that same tier. My thing about Jaylin Walker is I think Jaylin Walker's continuing to get better. And I spent – because my initial reaction to Jaylin Walker when I watched him was like – I'm not sure. Do I see him as an edge? Do I see him as an off-the-ball linebacker? I don't know that I like that. And then someone saw that and said to me, go watch this game and go watch that game and tell me if your opinion doesn't change.
Was one of them Texas?
Yeah, and he was a freaking beast. And I think, look, some people are going to say he's a tweener. He and Abdul Carter are basically in the same weight class. Like, there's a lot of similarities there. I think this kid could be a star in this league. I think he would be someone that could be a chess piece for them defensively and be a matchup nightmare because of the speed, because of the power. The Georgia people absolutely, oh, look at me. I'm getting all excited. Georgia people love him. Absolutely love him. Think he was like heart and soul of that defense. In fact, there's almost an apology from Georgia. Like, we did what we did for our team with Jaylin, which maybe wasn't necessarily the best thing for Jaylin. And Jaylin didn't say a word. He just did what we asked him to do because that's what we needed him to do. I love the player. Honestly, I've come, not that I thought he stunk, but I was like, pick 8, pick 10. Like, that's where he belongs. If he gets picked at 4, okay, let's go. Let's see what that looks like, because I think he could be a weapon.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I discarded him initially because he's an edge player, 241 pounds. And then I'm looking at Harold Landry again, who we talked to today, 6'2", 252.
By the way, 252, but he played more in the 240s.
And if Jaylin Walker gets into the high 240s, who am I to say that 4 pounds is going to make all that big of a difference for a player, to your credit, who I think, if given one position to focus in on, could certainly take off whether it's the get off, the commitment, the work ethic, it's just the instincts there. Like there are reps he had against Kelvin Banks in the SEC championship game that I'm just going, it wasn't a loss for Banks. This is a really great play by Jalon Walker. And I just think in the old scheme, oh my God, would have been Bill's probably top prospect in the entire draft, aside from, maybe the two that we've all been talking about. And I don't think variable system is all that different that he'd be taken off the board because of the weight considerations. He's in the mix for me. It's just a matter of where they want to go and who wins out and if they don't trade back. All right, I got to go. This was a mock that had a lot less mocking than I expected. I got to tell you, though, I think I might like your class as much as mine. I don't think Josh Connerly gets there at 38. But you did a great job here, as always. And you can read Mike, listen to Mike, Boston Sports Journal, the All 32 podcast with Will Parkinson, who has to be paid by someone else just to sit there and do the podcast with you. There it is. I said it. We did some mocking. Any final words?
Screw you.
Okay, thank you. We'll have you on in 4 weeks, as we always do. Thanks,
Awesome.
pal.
See ya.
The Patriots adding veteran Stephon Diggs brought much-needed credibility to their wide receiver room. But in a group full of slot types and possession receivers, New England still needs verticality and an outside presence to truly unlock Drake May's special arm talent. But today I'm breaking down 3 specific prospects who I think are the best fits to add some big play potential to the Patriots passing game. Jaylin Noel is one of this receiver class's easiest projections. The two-time captain improved every year at Iowa State, going from a second-team All-Big 12 selection in 2023 to earning Big 12 first-team and Special Teams Player of the Year honors last season. The 194-pounder put up a position-best 23 bench reps at the Combine, and he brought in over half of his contested targets last season. Take this deep grab against UCF. Iowa State comes out in a run look with 2 tight ends, both receivers tight to the formation on opposite sides, and the quarterback in pistol. But with the Cyclones facing a second and long situation, UCF keeps himself safe by playing single high press man. Noel chops his corner's 2-hand jam, dips the shoulder to keep himself clean, and takes a hard jab step to the corner before separating on a post. The deep safety does play this pretty horribly, but Noel tracks down the slightly underthrown ball to set up his offense deep in scoring territory. Thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to become members of Patriots Press Pass here on YouTube for more breakdowns just like this, as well as a ton of other great bonus content.
All right, as promised, we were back in with the first MailFan segment. Long time. I don't know if it's been quite a year, but it's been many, many months. And I want to reiterate what we said at the top of the podcast. There are 3 ways that you can help out, and only 1 way you can be on the show if you'd like to be. But number 1, if you want to come out and get your draft questions answered, if you want to drink a beer with me or Mike Giardi or Doug or Mark Daniels or Fitzy, come on down to Weymouth Thursday, April 17th, 7:30 p.m. We have a draft panel. We have items up for silent auction, including Red Sox tickets, one-on-one Zoom with Field Yates. You can talk 30 minutes, fantasy football, whatever you want to do. Mike Vrabel signed football, David Pastrnak jersey, tons more. It is the draft party, all right? We might even say stuff there that I won't say on the podcast. It's a little too tight-lipped. So come on out. All the money goes to Leukemia Lymphoma Society through Doug's campaign. $25 a ticket. Go to Eventbrite. Search Pat's Draft, DRAUGHT party. Find it on my Twitter. Find it on Fitzy's Twitter, Doug's Twitter, wherever you can go. This is going to be an awesome night. We've done some of these events. It's honestly one of the best nights of my entire year. Thursday, April 17th at 7:30. Beer, football, and fun stuff for the auction. Number 2, I'm running a Masters pool. Again, $20. It's a 50-50, so half the money will go to that same campaign, funding cancer research. So $10 automatically. You are doing a great thing. Probably the best thing you could do with $10 at this point in time in history. The other $10 goes towards a pool. So if you're watching the Masters, if you're going to be having a beer on the couch like me and falling asleep on a Saturday or Sunday, you might as well wake up and maybe be $200, $300, $400 richer. But that only happens if you join the pool. So come on in. I've done this 6 to 7 years. We're finally opening it up to the public. Email me, acallahan@bostonherald.com, or DM me @_Andrew Callahan for details. This is the only way you get into the pool. Apologies to folks who emailed about the March Madness pool and found my spam folder. I didn't find you in time, but I will be searching there. The deadline is Thursday, 8 a.m. for a Masters golf tournament pool. You pick 6 golfers, you lock it in, watch the standings live update, and money, as we said, goes to the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. The last thing is, if you want to join the show, like our guy Gary is, again, I think a record 3rd, 4th time, be a MailFan. Donate $10 to the link posted to my Twitter, to Doug's campaign. All money to cancer research, supporting families that dealt with what unfortunately the Kides went through. This is the best thing you can do on that app, anywhere, and you're going to hear me talk a lot more about it. But before that, we get to Gary. Is this your 3rd time? 4th time?
3rd time, I think. 3rd time's a charm. Maybe I'll actually make sense this time.
Yeah, maybe we'll upgrade you from MailFan to Mailman. Though that's already a profession that's already been taken, so I don't know if that'd be a downgrade or whatnot. But you, sir, got in my DMs and shot off a take that had you back on the podcast again. $10, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. You can be a MailFan, talk whatever you want, 5-10 minutes. Anyone who's brought up Ashton Jeanty to me gets the immediate no. I did this to Mutt. I did this to Doug. I did this to Michael Hurley on TV last night. But to you, I say yes. Please explain how you got me to turn around as it pertains to Ashton Jeanty.
So I understand the hesitation when it comes to taking him at 4, the whole running back position. Where I say connect Ashton Jeanty to the Patriots is you are doing everything in your power to enhance the value of the 4th pick. If Hunter and Carter are both gone, anything you want to do is about trading back. The best way to do that is to increase the value of every possible player that could go 4. And I think in this case, Jeanty is the most logical high-end blue chip player that could be attracted to teams at 4. So connect everything. You want to talk about the quarterback's best friend. You want to talk about Vrabel and Derrick Henry. You want to talk about running the ball and defense is the best way to improve this team. You want to make that well known to all the players, all of the teams, that the player that you think can best do that is Ashton Jeanty. And now the teams maybe at 6 of the Raiders or 10 with the Bears are much more interested in potentially losing out on a player and now being interested in at least 4 when they otherwise wouldn't, because it might not be Shedeur Sanders who is the most attractive piece. It could be Jeanty.
Yeah, and obviously they're not taking Sanders. So if they had him in for a top 30 versus the rest of the league, it's going, well, I hope you had a nice dinner, because that was the only point of that kind of get together. Jeanty, though, it's a good point, because I think when you are a position like the Patriots are, you have no leverage. Your only way is to present some sort of mirage of leverage. And like you're saying, it might not even be the Raiders at 6 or the Bears at 10. How about the Jets at 7? Like their GM said at the owners' meetings last week, or maybe it was Aaron Glenn, forgive me, I don't remember which one it was. We would be open to then trading Breece Hall if they took Jeanty maybe at 7. And that fits kind of the defensive coach's mindset, right? We want to run the ball, get out of the way of the defense, play good defense, and win that way. So the only way you would get teams to come up for him, obviously, if you think the threat of the Patriots taking him is gone, and lead into the Mike Vrabel history, in addition to, the Raiders and Pete Carroll, who take a running back, sometimes 2 every single year.
Yeah, I don't understand why they haven't made the connection yet. And I think that the only logical piece that I have is that they're sticking and picking, which really gives me a positive concern. But absolutely, 6 Raiders, 7 Jets, 10 Bears. Those teams also have multiple picks. The Bears do. The Bears are my big one that I like. I think they've improved their interior offensive line in free agency. They have the 2 receiving threats, Dunze and Moore on the outside. They've got Cole Kmet. Ben Johnson also, when he was with the Lions, was part of that group that traded up for Jahmyr Gibbs. So there's a history there. And I would gladly trade back to the 10th pick, probably for less than a prototypical value would be, because that's how much I want out of the 4th pick.
Yeah. All right. Let's say you have to stick and pick, though. Because, again, this is your 5-10 minutes. If anyone wants to be on the podcast, do as Gary did. Shoot me a DM with a question or a topic. Show you donated $10 to the Team Halley campaign for LLS. You're on the clock. Patriots have called you. Gary, California, we need you to do this for us. We are complete cowards. We don't know who to take. Who are you doing it before the clock runs out?
Well, if I have to stick and pick, I think it's Jalon Walker for me. And I know they've invested a lot at the defensive line already this year, but there's something really interesting about a speed rusher on the outside. And that would be if they consider Walker as a defensive end and not an off-ball linebacker. If you look at the positional value across the league and you start looking at the top contracts across the board, you're probably talking quarterback, wide receiver, and then pass rusher. So the value of being able to hit on a position that is also one of the most valuable positions on the field and your salary cap is a double hit. And Walker had a production both as a last 2 years, I think where his limitations are as an off-ball linebacker, but as a strict pass rusher in that weak side, violent defense that Terrell Williams wants to run, you could have White play the strong side, be that more edge setter, and let Walker just come into a situational role where, hey, I don't need you to play every snap. We're going to find the right opportunities for you, and you're going to just pin your ears back pass rusher. is a great opportunity for him. And I think it's a home run hit for them if they have to pick it 4.
Yeah, it's interesting. You have not heard the segment that I just did with Mike Giardi, but he picked Jalon Walker. So you're really going to like this podcast when you and I were done speaking, and then you can start listening. And look, if you're building the case as someone who has said he's a little bit undersized to the edge and he's too big traditionally for a Mike Vrabel off-ball linebacker, and you could say, oh, well, it's not that big of a difference. And I would say, look, when you're picking 4th, you want a guy who checks, if not all the boxes, all but one. And so the case you would argue against that is, as I actually said earlier, you add on 5 pounds and go from 241 to 246. You're in the range that Harold Landry already is. And you could expect better out of him as a pass rusher. Like you said, that's a premium position. He probably should just be there anyway. Imagine what he would look like or have looked like at Georgia had he just been allowed to stay on the edge versus flexing between on-ball linebacker and off-ball. It's the same thing to ask. How unbelievable would Travis Hunter have been had he just played receiver? And it's not because he should have just played one side of the ball, but it's just to say when you get to devote all your time and energy and focus in an environment that lets you be the best version of what you're already really good at, you're probably going to maximize that potential. For the Patriots, they need, you'd love to have the versatility, but it comes secondary to what you're talking about. An elite skill at a premium position that you can continue to flesh out in a way that you don't look at him and go, oh, he's a finished product. No, there's more, something untapped there.
Couldn't agree more. And he's not all that different in size to Abdul Carter. So we all want Abdul Carter, but if we're just talking height and weight, they're not all that different. So it's tough to call one undersized and be okay with the other. And since we love talking about arm length and wingspan, Jalon Walker, I think his wingspan is like 5 inches longer than Will Campbell's. So
beautiful.
I'm not totally concerned about the height, given the fact that his wingspan is, kind of tree trunks on each arm.
Yeah, and there's leverage built in there, right? Like the knocking Aaron Donald way back away, not to do the outlier Hall of Fame example to support an argument for someone who's not that, but was always a little bit too short. Was it the low man that wins often in the trenches? Like that just sounds like you got a head start that no one can ever match because everyone's taller than you. All right, we'll get you out on this. Any lingering Patriots thoughts, takes, questions that you've been mulling since you and I last spoke like 9-10 months ago?
Can we give away the 4th pick to go all the way down to 10? And before you say that, think about, let's say Shedeur doesn't even go. If I named 7 guys, would you take him at 4 versus take him at 10? I think you would answer yes to all of them. Ready? Will Campbell, Membu, Mason Graham, Tyler Warren, Tet McMillan, Jalon Walker, Ashton Jeanty. Now, you may not take Jeanty at 10, but I haven't even named Kelvin Banks, Mikael Williams, Shamir Stewart. So my point is I am so emphatic about wanting to trade back to 10 or somewhere in the top 10 that I would take significantly less value than would say on the draft chart.
Significantly, I can't get there, but I get the point because there is a drop-off in the talent from the 2 guys we've all been talking about, Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter, and throw Cam Ward in there, not because he's as good, but because he's going to go number 1 in the rest of the draft. To me, I don't want to induce any kind of risk, even if I'm comfortable. I'd say with 5 of those guys. I don't remember who you said. Jeanty I would throw out. Tyler Warren's probably worth the pick, but for what I can do as the Patriots moving forward, and what's a good tight end class, I'd rather wait. But it's a compelling case. And that's why I can tell you, and I already said this, people in the front office want to trade back. Like that's their plan A. They had hoped to control the draft, is what Doug and I heard at the combine, if they had gotten 2 offensive tackles, which they only got 1. And now they don't get to just go best player available. But that was the plan. Receiver, 2 offensive tackles, rebuild the front 7, maybe another corner. Obviously, they got the corner called Davis and go nuts. So now they're stuck in this position of you kind of try to thread the needle, even if Membu is a reach. And I think this is the reality they know they've been facing. If we have to stick and pick, who is it? But ideally, yeah, they're largely with you. Good news. I don't know if it's a 10 or 9 or 8 or 7, but yeah, the trade back is preferable. So do you have a second pick after Jalon Walker?
I think it's Campbell. I think even if he ends up being a guard, again, that positional value, guards are not kind of nobodies anymore. They're still an important position that you're going to have to pay premier money for. So even if he ends up having to kick inside to guard, I still think if you believe he is the best lineman in the draft, regardless of position, then you're kind of stomaching it, you're swallowing it, and just deciding to take the best lineman, which is the biggest need in this team.
Yeah. Well, I know you are probably not flying cross country, but you would be delighted to hear Mark Daniels say that exact thing next Thursday if you made it to the draft party. In the meantime, Gary, thank you for joining. Thank you for donating to LLS. It's good to see you, and I'm sure we'll do this again before the year's out, all right?
Awesome.